Hey world, Dan Brown here. Want to start doing some Twitter Q&As with you, a little less polished than Tuesday's uploads, but a little more polished than our live streams on Thursdays. So got a spectrum of more content to keep you guys fulfilled with Pogobat. Anyway, let's jump into it. Cool. Josh Fletcher asks, a theory out now is that Democrats want Donald Trump to be the nominee for Republicans because it'd be an easy win. Is there a part of you that wants that? I think that a lot of people are so turned off by politics in part because of this zero-sum mentality that's forwarded by both political parties and by the media, right? That it's Democrats versus Republicans and that you have to pick a side and that it's all about relative gains for a particular party rather than absolute gains for the level of discourse in this country. I mean, I am a Democrat. I, on the whole, believe that the Democratic Party does a whole heck of a lot more good for the little guy than the Republican Party has ever had any intention of doing. But let's not delude ourselves. Let's not pretend like the Democratic Party is purely good, right? There's corruption on both sides. Trump's rise has served to conflate bigotry with patriotism, and even if he doesn't stand a chance in the general election, that is already a net loss for America. I would rather see someone who maybe their policies are just as regressive and backward as Donald Trump's, but who doesn't at least so overtly forward dog-whistly racist ideas as the nominee, even if they stand a better chance of beating a candidate who overall I think is better. I think that if we elevate the discourse on the whole, that's healthier in the long run for the American body politic. Peror Augusts, I think I'm saying that right, asks, do you think it would be wise at this point to talk less Trump than more? I think it's a myth that, Trump's level of support and sustainability of support is attributable to the amount of media attention he has received. I think it's kind of absurd to think that if we just ignore him now, he'll disappear. I think it's wishful thinking. Trump is the likely nominee, and he riles up his troops by invoking this idea that they constitute a majority, specifically the silent majority, which is a scary term to be invoking. You should Google its history. We counter Donald Trump's implicit claim to a political mandate by demonstrating that it doesn't exist, that there are more of us, and that we are more willing to stand by our convictions longer than his really scared supporters. David Leduc says, great vid, but other than vote, Facebook posts, campaign contributions, etc., what can we do to, quote, outflank? I think that the protesters at Donald Trump's rally in Chicago had the right idea. We literally take to the streets. It's going to be a hot summer, but we do it non-violently in the face of such visceral ugliness, all that is, the worst in America. I was heartened by video footage I saw of, African-American youth jumping up and down after they'd successfully gotten the rally canceled, singing Kendrick Lamar, right? We gonna be all right. We gonna be all right, because we are. We are stronger. Our convictions are stronger. We are on the correct side of history, and we're going to be all right. That display of confidence and optimism is how we win. I expect the young progressives who are watching this, which I think is most of you, to take part in marches this summer. This is going to be a summer for activism. Once classes are done, we are the largest generation, the most progressive generation in American history, and it's time to make our voices heard. We've come of age. We are now all at least college students, and we have some semblance of, adult independence. And I've been thinking, I want your feedback on this, honestly, as to what I might put on a sign at these sort of rallies. And what I'm working with right now is bark louder, don't bite. Bark louder in bold, don't bite in italics. Bark louder, I think, speaks for itself. If Trump is going to spew this kind of vitriol, we have every right, every obligation, really, to put on a show of strength greater than anything Trump and his supporters could ever hope to do. And don't bite kind of has a double meaning. First of all, it demonstrates our commitment to non-violence, right? That's very important. If we allow Trump's violent supporters to dictate the terms of the debate, if we are goaded into this sort of violent discourse, then we have already lost. It undermines our cause. And the second meaning is, right, don't fall for it, don't give in to it. I guess it kind of means the same thing. But Taylor Huston asked on Tuesday after Sanders lost a bunch of big states, so any chance Sanders can win now? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is, think of it this way. If your preferred basketball team is losing 58-42 at the half, then what do they have to do in the second half? They have to outscore their opponents, 58-42. All of the states that are the most demographically favorable to Hillary, like her southern firewall, that's all behind us now. And as the primaries move west, there is a real chance that Sanders can win many of them by big margins, big enough to maybe make up his current delegate deficit. The two most delegate-rich states left are New York, my home state, and California. And so I think they're both a little ways off yet, but one of those is going to be one of the campaign's Waterloos, I think. Taylor also asks how to deal with Bernie or bust people, the people that think Hillary is a criminal and will sell us out to Wall Street. I think for now we wait it out and see how things play out. They might, you pipe down a little bit, eat a little bit of crow if and when Hillary wins and the general election dynamic becomes a little bit more clear. But if not, I think you make the pragmatic argument. You say, well, do you want Trump to win? Because that's what's going to happen. And I don't particularly love Noam Chomsky, but I think a lot of these Bernie or bust people probably do. And Noam Chomsky went on the record, he gave an interview saying that he believes in voting strategically and that, often it's best to mitigate negative outcomes rather than you voting purely idealistically. So maybe refer them to, that. Phil House Manastorm asks, how do you feel about the formats of Magic beyond Commander? This is all going to be Greek to people who don't know what the hell we're talking about, but if you play Magic the Gathering and didn't know that I play Magic the Gathering, I have a gaming channel that you should check out. Gotta get that plug in there. Look, I have a lot of friends who play, Modern, Legacy, Standard, and I have a lot of respect for people who can, do that at a higher level. But just in terms of the incentives, what sort of person is drawn to those formats? I mean, Magic is not a cheap hobby. I think a lot of people know that. It requires some degree of affluence, particularly for these more traditional formats that have a little bit more of a pay-to-play element, right? You can buy a deck that is better than others. Not to say that overrides actually making correct tactical decisions during the game, but it's part of it. Couple that requisite affluence with this zero-sum kind of Randian dynamic of one-on-one gaming where you don't have to really engage socially with the person across the table from you. You can just interact with the cards. I think it tends to appeal a little more disproportionately to people who don't see eye to eye with me politically. Actually, this is, from my experience actually going to gaming stores. I think they're just not people I want to hang out with as much. I'm speaking in generalizations here. There are great people who play Modern, but Commander's more political. It's more about, kicking back, having a beer with friends. And, you can hold each other to a high competitive standard, but more important than crushing your opposition is having a good time with people you get along with. Cherry asks, do gravitational waves have a direction? If so, does time act differently under the influence of its ripples? A lot of people have been asking me about, what is the fundamental nature of time and space, Dan? They ask me about gravity waves and time ripples, and I'm gonna say to you the same thing I say to all of them. I look them in the eyes and I say, we don't win anymore. We don't have a country. We don't have a border. The gravity goes in, the gravity goes out. How can you say that we have a country when the gravity and time just goes in and out? If you look at our rivals, if you ask, Ted Cruz, he doesn't say anything about this. He goes in and out. Gravity doesn't hold him down. Gravity shouldn't hold any of us down. And for the last 8 years, we've done nothing but lose on this. We've been the worst. We've been the worst on time and on gravity. But when we win, and we're going to do a lot of winning, I guarantee you that. When we win, we won't be the worst. We will be the best on time, on gravity, on ripples, in the time-space continuum, on the fundamental nature of time and on gravity. How's my Donald Trump impression? Is that okay? It needs a little work, but I'm learning some things. Some rhetorical tricks.